central to all of this remains the issue of faith and the role that religion can have in persuading people just how serious, how ominous in many ways, the environmental challenge is, particularly on the climate emergency. Well, I'm joined now by Father Josh from the Vatican in Rome, in St. Peter's, coordinator of ecology for the Vatican and a significant contributor to Laudate Si, the first environmental encyclical. Father Josh, welcome.
Thank you.
What's your reading of what is happening here and whether it's moving at the speed and with the intensity that the Holy Father had indicated in his BBC remarks just before this happened a couple of weeks ago?
I'm sure the Holy Father is praying for the success of the COP because he has it very much in his heart. Last Sunday at the Angelus, when he said, when he wished that here at the COP we would listen to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. So he sees the urgency. My own reading is the urgency is palpably felt. I'm wondering, whether the actions will follow. That's I think was most important, that we should implement what is pledged.
But he read a very significant 5 minutes, a warning, an alert, an appeal. He then also saw President Biden as well. He can hope, but does he feel he has real influence?
He has, in as much as Pope Francis, is the Pope, so there's 1.3 billion Catholics. But as we know, he's not just the Pope of the Catholics. I remember a few years ago, I was in Tokyo for the G20 Interfaith Leaders meeting. I was very touched when a Muslim Imam walked up to me and said, I feel that Pope Francis is my Pope. So here is a man who can inspire people. And my own reading is that he is a man sent by God, and he is a man of God, precisely to lead a transformation. And any transformation requires a charismatic leader like Mahatma Gandhi or Nelson Mandela. And in the current era of planetary emergency, we think we have that leader in Pope Francis. And he can inspire people. So I would say and working at the Vatican, we see it. From ambassadors to heads of states to scientists to ordinary people, how much the voice of Pope Francis heard. I think it's also because of not only just the message, but the messenger. He says these things, but they come straight to your heart because he's so authentic, he's so truthful. And probably that's what we need also today, not just saying out things, but also saying it convincingly and proving it with our lives,
now,
with action.
If I may say, you have rather a grand title. You coordinate ecology, which is pretty grand. You've only got a bit of ecology to bring together. But the reason I raise that, sorry to be slightly flip, is to say, actually, this is now about a climate emergency. And is that something that's recognized inside the Vatican? It's not just about ecology.
No,
that this is now an emergency.
Yeah, very much. I can say several times in Pope Francis' own speeches. In fact, in the Vatican, we don't use the word climate change anymore. And I'm convinced of this change, because the moment we say climate change, we don't see it as serious. So the expressions that we use is climate crisis. We call it a climate emergency, and that's calling it by its real name. So I can vouch for that Pope Francis, the Vatican sees it as a climate emergency, and time is running out, and Pope Francis has consistently spoken about the 1.5 degrees centigrade. That's so important. That time, and also as late as on 4th of October, in the joint statement of faith leaders, it was mentioned very clearly, time is running out. And I can also remember a visit by scientists to him in 2018 when they told him, based on the IPCC report of 2018, we have just 12 years to turn things around. So we are very much aware of the urgency of the importance.
Of course, when he was a priest in his home country, and well before he became a cardinal and well before he became the Pope, he showed immense concern about the poor and about the dispossessed and about the way society is forgetting about them. How much is he almost paranoid now about the inevitable impact of the climate emergency, particularly on the poor in places like Bangladesh? I remember when he went to see the Rohingyas in Bangladesh, who'd been kicked out of Burma or Myanmar. You could see the emotion. How much is that now driving his concern?
It is, I think, it is what is driving him. And the beauty of Laudato Si is in paragraph 49, Pope Francis' famous expression, the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. I think for too many decades we saw the cry of the earth as separate. We were concerned about exotic plants and species, not that they are important, and we forgot the poor. And here comes a man who is bringing these two cries together. And because he has understood, he has worked in the slums, he has seen that we cannot bring development to people unless there's a home in which we can live in. He often speaks about his own ecological conversion. Like many people, he was wondering, he said, why the bishops of Brazil in the Amazon were making so much fuss about ecology. Then he went and saw there in the Amazon the disasters. And he said that was the moment of his conversion. So, and it is becoming an obsession for him, as in the positive sense, he wants once a passion, you are passionate, you won't give up.
Let me ask you, though, Sir David Attenborough, the celebrated naturalist who's almost 95, he was here,
yes.
and he makes it very clear, along with a lot of scientists, that actually this is now an existential threat to our human life on this planet. Is that how the Holy Father sees it?
Yeah. I mean, just enough to look at the subtitle of the encyclical Laudato Si.
It's an existential threat.
It's on care for our common home. And the very first chapter is what is happening to our common home. And climate crisis, biodiversity loss, pollution, water scarcity. And he's saying our home is coming. So that's his starting point. So there is nothing more intimate, important to us than our own home. And we are seeing it as Pope Francis sees it as the crisis of our common home. Then the second part is, okay, now let's come together to take care of our common home.
But where does faith fit into this, finally, Father Josh? Because in the end, faith can't stop thunderstorms, hurricanes, typhoons, flooding. It can't stop drought. How does faith act to give people strength?
Brilliant question, because I think that's again another unique contribution of Laudato Si. The physical dimension, what scientists have been telling us, the moral dimension, the poor are suffering. Then Pope Francis, the second chapter has a beautiful chapter titled The Gospel of Creation, where he's reminding people of all faiths that earth is not just nature, earth is God's creation. The earth is sacred in as much as it is God's handiwork. And that's what we think can make a big difference when we don't see it just as real estate to buy and sell. We just don't see it as nature to protect. We see it as God's creation entrusted to our stewardship. And in all religions, it is a common belief that earth is not our property. Earth is God's creation, of which we are stewards. And I always think of Genesis as the very first book of the Bible. First, chapter 2, verse 15, when God says, now cultivate and take care of this garden, the Garden of Eden. And that is the very first commandment, sort of a job description of humanity in the Bible, to take care of this garden. And as many scientists call it, Earth is the planetary garden. I teach cosmology myself, so I'm always impressed by the uniqueness of this home planet, our planet. It is a planetary garden. And as all faiths believe in that. And that's we think. A second thing is that what faiths can do. Faiths are sensitive to human suffering. So when someone suffers in Bangladesh or in the Philippines or in Colombia, those in the global north, we just not sit back. I mean, that's again faiths that unite us, And most, especially in Christianity, I think of Mother Teresa of Calcutta. In the poor you see God present in all religions, I'm sure. So that again gives another. So you don't just see nature as God's creation; you see it as God suffering in the poor. And there is no greater service of God than serving the poor.
Father Josh, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
No, thank you. It was
from
a pleasure.
the Vatican here in Glasgow.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.